She barged through the old ranch gates like she owned the place, waving some papers and yelling, "You can't live here. This property belongs to the HOA now." I stood on the porch, still holding my grandpa's rusty old keys, and I couldn't believe the nerve. This ranch had been in my family for 150 years, yet here she was trying to snatch it on the very first day I set foot back home. She slapped the notice against my chest and said, "Either you pay our HOA fees or we'll have this whole land cleared out." I almost laughed, but I stayed calm because I knew something she didn't. She thought I was just some clueless grandson coming back to a dusty farm. What she didn't know was who exactly I was.
I folded the notice slowly and looked straight at her. "You're trespassing," I said, keeping my voice steady. She smirked like I was some scared kid. "Sweetheart, I am the law here," she shot back, pointing to her clipboard as if it was a badge. Behind her, two men in cheap uniforms walked up, pretending to be officers. They flashed fake badges so quick I barely caught a glimpse. Then one of them grabbed my gate and said, "We're here to enforce the order." My hands tightened, but I didn't move. Instead, I asked, "Order from who?" Karen shoved her phone in my face, showing a group chat titled HOA Board Enforcement. "We voted," she said with a grin, "so it's legal. Either you pack up or these officers will escort you off." The two men stepped closer, expecting me to panic, but I just leaned back against the porch railing, calm as ever, because while they thought they were putting on a show of power, they had no clue who they were really trying to push around. And when I finally told them, their little game was going to end real fast.
One of the fake cops reached for my arm, and that's when I finally straightened up. "Careful," I said quietly. "You're about 2 seconds away from making the biggest mistake of your life." Karen rolled her eyes and barked, "Arrest him already!" The man moved closer, but before he could touch me, a black SUV pulled up at the gate. The tires crunched against the gravel, and I saw the fear flicker in their eyes. A real deputy stepped out, hat low, badge shining clear in the sunlight. He looked at me first, nodded once, then turned his eyes on them. "What's going on here?" he asked, voice firm. Karen jumped in fast, pointing her finger at me. "Officer, arrest this trespasser! He's refusing HOA orders and trying to steal this land!" The deputy tilted his head, studying me for a moment. Then his expression shifted. His jaw clenched, and I could tell he recognized me instantly. He slowly took off his sunglasses, looked back at Karen and her hired goons, and said, "Ma'am, you might want to watch your mouth. Do you even know who you're talking to?"
Karen froze, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "What do you mean, who I'm talking to?" she snapped, trying to sound confident. The deputy didn't even look at her. His eyes stayed locked on me. "Governor," he said firmly, loud enough for everyone to hear, "are these people harassing you?" The fake officers' faces drained of color. One of them actually stepped back, stammering, "Governor?" Karen's clipboard slipped from her hand and clattered against the dirt. She tried to laugh it off. "Governor? Him? No, you're mistaken. This man is just a squatter. He doesn't belong here." But I finally stepped down from the porch, standing only a few feet from her. "This ranch has been mine since the day my grandfather signed it into the family name, and as of last week, the will made it official. You stormed onto my land with fake cops, fake authority, and fake rules. Do you really want to test how that ends? With me?" Her lips trembled, but she still tried to bluff. You can't scare me. The HOA has power, and we'll shut you down no matter what title you hold." That's when I smiled for the first time all day, because what she thought was power was about to collapse right in front of her. The deputy stepped forward, hand resting on his holster, and said in a tone that made the air heavy, "Ma'am, impersonating law enforcement is a felony, and trespassing on private property You're stacking charges real quick." Karen's eyes darted to her hired men, hoping they'd back her up, but both of them were already sweating bullets. One muttered, "We didn't sign up for this," and slipped his fake badge into his pocket. The other raised his hands and stammered, "Look, lady, you said this was just some farmer. You didn't tell us he was the governor." Karen hissed at them to shut up, but it was too late. The deputy pulled out his radio. "Dispatch, I've got a possible impersonation case here. Send backup." Static crackled as the call went through, and Karen's face went pale. I crossed my arms, watching her unravel. "You came here thinking you could bully me off my own family's land with scared tactics. But here's the thing, Karen. You didn't just pick the wrong ranch. You picked the wrong man." Her hands trembled, but then, out of nowhere, she smirked again. "You think this is over, governor or not? I've got people above me, people who can make things very hard for you." And for a moment, even the deputy glanced at me, waiting to see how I'd respond. I took a slow step closer, close enough that Karen had to tilt her head back to meet my eyes. "Above me," I said quietly. "Karen, I am the person above you." She blinked, confused, then tried to laugh, but it came out shaky. The deputy's radio crackled again, and another cruiser rolled up the dirt road. Real officers stepped out this time, hands resting on their belts, scanning the scene. Karen's fake enforcers panicked immediately. One bolted toward his car, the other dropped his badge on the ground and raised his hands. But Karen? She doubled down. She pointed at me, screaming, "He's lying! He forged those papers! The HOA voted! This land is ours!" Her voice cracked, desperation dripping from every word. One of the real officers frowned and walked up to me. "Governor, do you want to press charges?" The question alone made Karen stagger back, like the weight of it finally hit her. I glanced at the officers, then back at her. "Not yet," I said calmly, "because first I want the entire county to see what happens when someone tries to steal from a veteran's family and lies to the law to do it." Karen's face went white. A veteran?" she whispered, and that's when the whole porch seemed to go silent.
Karen's voice cracked as she tried to recover. "So what if you're a veteran? That doesn't mean you can ignore the HOA. We have rules." Her words wavered, but she forced them out, clutching her clipboard like a shield. I let out a short laugh, bitter and sharp. "Rules? You think your neighborhood club has more authority than the Constitution, than the state itself?" I pulled the folded deed from my pocket, the one my grandfather had signed decades ago, and held it up. "This land was granted to my family before your HOA even existed, and the only rules that matter here are the ones written in this." The deputy took the paper, scanned it, and nodded. "Legal, ironclad, no HOA jurisdiction." He handed it back and faced her squarely. "Ma'am, if you don't leave right now, you'll be arrested for trespassing, impersonation, and harassment." Karen's breath came fast, almost panting, but instead of backing down, she snapped. "No, I'm not leaving. If you want me gone, you'll have to drag me off this land." She planted her heels in the dirt like she thought she could fight the whole state. And right then, the sound of cameras clicking filled the air. Local reporters, drawn by the commotion, had pulled up on the roadside and were already filming everything. Karen didn't realize it yet, but her downfall had just gone public.
Karen spun around as the reporters closed in. Microphones and cameras pointed straight at her. "Turn those off!" she shrieked, trying to block her face. But it was too late. The world was already watching. I stepped forward, my voice steady and clear. "This woman stormed onto my ranch, tried to use fake officers to steal my family's land, and thought HOA rules were stronger than the law. But in America, property rights aren't decided by power-hungry neighbors. They're protected by the Constitution." The deputy nodded, then gave the order. "Ma'am, you're under arrest."
The real officers stepped in, cuffing Karen as the cameras caught every second. She kicked and screamed, but all it did was make her look smaller, weaker, more desperate. Her fake enforcers didn't stick around. They bolted as fast as they could. And when the dust finally settled, I stood there on the porch, watching the sun set behind the hills, the same view my grandfather had watched for half a century. I turned to the reporters, to the cameras, to everyone who would hear the story. I didn't fight for this country to be told I can't live on my own land, not by an HOA, not by anyone. The crowd went quiet. The deputy gave me a respectful nod, and for the first time all day, I felt the ranch breathe easy again. Because Karen didn't just lose her battle, she exposed herself to the entire state. And my grandfather's land was finally safe.